My name is Gene Kelly. I'd like to tell you a true story about a dancer who lives in Stamford, Connecticut. When I heard about it, I figured I could tell it as well as anybody, since it's sort of in my line. The story was prepared for the National Conference of Christians and Jews by Mari Yanofsky. We call it Brotherhood and Phil Jones. My name is Phil Jones. Jones is real, not fake. You can find me in the Stamford, Connecticut phone book under the Jones School of Dancing. Stop by at my place anytime. I'll be glad to teach you the rumba, ballet step or two, or enough tap to make you the life of the party. And you can have a couple lessons on the house. I guess more than anything in the world, I always wanted to dance. My mother says I practically danced my way into existence 28 years ago. Well, she ought to know. Dancing. I don't know, there's something about it that not only lifts me off my feet, but lifts my heart as well. I was pretty good at it. I won all kinds of contests, and I was going to conquer the world with my dancing. Why, the tap dancers in show business, all of them, they were all going to take a backseat to Phil Jones. I was such a terrific dancer, in fact, that I danced my way into the Air Force in World War II. I often wonder what went on in the mind of that classification officer when he decided that since I was such great shakes as a dancer, I'd make a good air gunner. Well, anyway, I submitted to months and months of basic training, complicated courses, and marching. I could never figure out why it was important to march in the Air Force, but I've never yet seen a pilot march off into the wild blue yonder. And did I say that dancing lifts me off my feet? Well, in the Army, I sure got lifted off my feet in a Liberator bomber. Well, then it happened. The thing that you believe will never happen to you happened. Came to a lot of guys one way or another, but this moment, we were getting it. Our crew. We were over Metz in France and too near the German border. The pilot had a great choice. He had to try for a forced landing and limp his way back to home base in England. He could have tossed a coin. The odds were against us both ways. We made the White Cliffs at Dover, all right, and by that time we were ready to admit there was more likely to always be in England than be in us for very long. The captain was losing control and altitude. 300 feet, he ordered the crew to bail out. The first man was thrown against the ship's side with a slipstream and killed. Could have been any of us. I was next. I can't talk about that plunge now, but I know I was tearing at my chute pack like a wild man, and then finally, when I'd given up all hope of ever seeing that mushroom of silk, it opened. Almost too late. I don't remember much after that, except the doctor's voices interrupting the pain in my back and legs. Hear them saying maybe I'd never walk again. Walk? Who cared about walking? I wanted to dance. Then they said maybe I could at least walk if they operated and removed 2 discs. I didn't even know I was carrying such things around with me. Discs. To me, they were records. Records were music, and music was dancing. Oh, your mind does funny things like that when you're mixed up and scared. 18 months in a hospital wouldn't be so long if when you finally did get up, you got up on a pair of legs that matched. But mine didn't. One was shorter than the other, and the pain and the weakness in my back seemed mine for all time. When show people came into the wards to entertain, I turned my back or hobbled out of the room when the dancer started his routine. But when you lie on your back and look at the ceiling for a long, long time, what can you do but think? And listen when other guys with other problems keep giving you advice about yours. All kinds of guys. And all kinds of opinions. Not a dancer among them, but somehow they understood. There's a lot of chaplains in that ward, with a lot of approaches. I suspect a couple of them hunted up a copy of Variety, not exactly their Bible, but the Bible of show business, and boned up a little on dancing so they could get my point of view. And one day, a little on the wobbly side, to be sure, I walked out of the hospital. It was summer. 1946. The scene, the Jones Sun Parlor, with some pretty fancy dancing going on. Mrs. Jones' son Philip was home, and this was his first experimental dancing class. Nobody but me knew how experimental it was. All Stamford must have been in on it because pretty soon 100 youngsters showed up. The Stamford Women's Club offered their auditorium. The Board of Education sent me on a round of public schools, and at night had me teaching the high school gang. Soon we were putting on shows, and the kids got a big bang out of turning over $22,000 to the Teenage Funds of Stamford and to the Junior Business and Professional Women's Club Cancer Drive. And after some of the local tough kids got over the idea of thinking dancing was for sissies, I heard that Stamford's juvenile delinquency rate came down. Well, not so long ago, I had the unusual experience of receiving a testimony. It came from Mr. Eugene Daly, in charge of Stamford school children's adjustment problems. He does a real unsung hero's job with the kids. He said, "It's absolutely impossible to estimate Phil Jones' full worth to this entire community." Well, in all due respect to Mr. Daly, it seems to me he's a little offbeat, as I tell my kids when their feet don't fit the music. It seems to me that it's absolutely impossible to estimate the community's full worth to Phil Jones. Look what they did for me. All kinds of people. Maybe the folks of Stamford were out to help a hometown veteran. Rehabilitation, I suppose it's called. Or maybe the churches and organizations were promoting Brotherhood. I don't know. But I doubt if the city of Stamford just suddenly went mad over dancing. Anyway, dancing's a democratic thing, and I'd like to help keep the youngsters of Stamford in step with each other, help them catch on to the wonderful rhythm of the human race in what might be called the dance of life. Maybe you've heard I've had a couple of good offers in New York, and even Hollywood. Well, it's true, I have. But about those offers, well, you could tell all those fellas out there not to worry for a while. I'm a pretty busy guy. Well, I've got a dancing lesson coming up now, so... Okay, kids, let's go. Pick up.